Hi, everybody. We are live. This is our second season of Arsenal Fan Circle, the ninth episode, and we are previewing the Sheffield United Arsenal game. And I have a special guest on. A lot of you may know Stan the Man on Twitter. Stan, thanks for coming on.
Good afternoon from Vancouver. A very rainy afternoon here in Vancouver.
It's raining in Vancouver. It's raining on the East Coast here also. So what better thing to do than sit down for an hour and talk about Arsenal
Exactly.
and all things football related. First of all, we were just talking about this, and we want to sort of talk about England, Bulgaria. Disgraceful thing that's going on. Racism in the game should not be allowed. It's a society problem. And until the federations, this is my opinion anyway, Stan, until the federations start doing something and deducting points from these countries, do you see any change, Stan?
Not really. It's almost like we're back in time to the 70s. It's just like we've regressed. And it just seems in the last few years or so, this problem has just sort of like made a big, huge resurgence again. And you still see a lot of people making excuses for it. I look at what happened with, was it Lukaku?
Yeah.
And the fans sort of wrote that letter. I don't know if you saw that, but they were trying to almost excuse it. Don't take it personal. This is just what we do to put off opponents. Blah blah blah. And if that's what people are thinking, if people think that that's generally acceptable, then, like you say, we're a far way off. And it's not just a football thing; it's obviously a society thing as well.
Yeah, because these things, we learn these things from our parents. I don't care what anyone else says. You hear these things from your family group, I believe, and then you hear them from your pals that you hang around with, and it shouldn't be accepted in any walk of life. And we're not going to make a big deal about this. We all know it's wrong, and hopefully the federations, like I said, will start deducting points from the countries involved, and they'll start treating this issue seriously.
Or kick them out.
Kick them out of competition. Exactly. So moving on now, what do you think about the weekend's football, Stan? VAR is front and center.
Yeah, it's again VAR is the big story yet again. The Tottenham match. I mean, that was just absolute chaos. I mean, it seemed that nobody seemed to know what was actually going on though. And I saw a clip later on of on Sky where they have is it Phil Thompson and Merson, and they all sit there watching the games with their headphones on. Yep. They didn't have a clue what was going on either. I thought VAR was there to aid the referee and point things out. It comes up on the screen that it's it's a handball and it's going to be disallowed. It's up there in big letters, and yet the referee says no, put the ball in the centre circle. That's allowed. So I mean, what did you make of that?
It's on his bicep, and since when did the bicep not become part of the arm? If it's up here, then it's okay.
Yeah.
Anywhere below this joint right here, the shoulder joint. So, first of all, I had Foster as my goalkeeper in my fantasy football league. So I'm losing points right there. Secondly, it's Dele Alli, who we all do not dislike very much, not like him. And it's clearly arm. And he puts the ball away very nicely. But VAR has got to address that situation.
We were saying just before we came on, I think for me, the problem with VAR is that, there should be a screen at the side of the pitch. And if something goes down and the referee's missed it, he should get a word in his ear saying, hey, you might have missed something. Do you want to go and check it? So the referee goes and looks at the screen with his own eyes. Yeah. And then the referee, he can make the decision, oh, I missed something. It's a card. I'm going to pull back for a free kick or whatever. or no, I'm happy with my decision. Let's continue with play. Not being told in his ear, do this, do that. You've missed that. It's this, it's that. It should be the referee's decision.
And Stan, this setup is in Bundesliga. You can go to the sideline and look at the pictures, and the referee is able to play it back. It just seems to me that the FA are unwilling to make a referee look bad.
Well, you're not allowed to say anything against the referee. You know, they are untouchable. You know, they make big mistakes, and you're not allowed to. How many times do you see a manager get interviewed after the game when something really bad's gone down against his team, and he's asked about it, and he's obviously fuming, and he just has to say, you know, I'm not going to say anything about it because I'll get fined again.
And today we had VAR as well.
Yeah.
Impact. The couple of incidents, the Mane goal or not goal. For me, it was not a goal.
I liked it. I wanted that to stand as a goal. I wanted that to stand as a goal. I wanted that, you know, leveler at that time. I wanted that equaliser. So I was like, no. It was kind of like his shoulder, but I was calling myself.
You were calling yourself.
Yeah.
So the ball came off of the knee and straight to the arm, and for an attacking player, that is a no goal.
But the first one, you know, that I don't think that should have been pulled back. We spoke about that one as well before we came on air. So, I know you were saying that, you know, and I agree with you that you couldn't have, you know, as you say, there'd be no goal scored.
Yeah.
Ever.
So
because some of it went down.
For me, I think VAR did okay today in today's game, Manchester United and Liverpool. For me, it took care of the very important decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yesterday is the big one with Spurs, as we already talked about. Like you said as well, Stan, it comes up on VAR as no goal, but the referee turns to the center circle and awards it.
And then all the conspiracies start on Twitter, and you can't blame it. You know, you can't blame it when you see that kind of a decision.
They've definitely benefited this season. How many extra points do you think they've gained? They've certainly gained a point at Manchester City.
Well, it was funny because I was always under the impression that when VAR came in, it would take more points off of them because of their you know, frequency of diving in and around the penalty area. But it hasn't, you know, there's still a long way to go. So maybe as we get more into this season, we'll start seeing VAR nicking more points off of them.
Now that you say the frequency of diving, do you think actually Harry Kane is sort of the frequency of diving for Harry Kane has gone down a little bit?
Well,
haven't noticed it.
Over the last few weeks, I noticed a lot of people in the media have been making a point of it. If you remember, there was that funny one where I can't remember what the game was, and the commentator sort of said to Harry Kane, you know, do you think you might have gone down a little bit easy there? And he was like, well, you know, I have to watch it back. And he goes, oh, we can watch it back right now. And they had the TV screen. They had it right there. And I thought
amazing. Yeah, I always love the way you say I have to watch it back, or you know, but I love that.
So I mean, that the media have actually been sort of like putting it under the spotlight a bit. So, you know, he's probably had to curtail that part of his game, shall we say?
Yeah. So we're almost through the interlull. We've had to suffer through Saturday and Sunday here with no Arsenal. How have you survived over the last 2 weeks?
You know, I've got no more excuses because usually, you know, the missus wants me to go and do the groceries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's usually when football's on. So I'm usually down the pub watching the football. So I've been putting shelves up, getting the groceries in, and you know, doing all the sort of like all of the chores. But I'm glad that it's going to be back tomorrow, and I'm really looking forward to the game.
Yeah, I actually was doing something yesterday, Stan. Hurt myself, hurt my back. So, but I'm on the mend. I'm feeling better day by day. Let's get into the Sheffield United Arsenal game. First of all, how do you think we've done over the first 8 games this season?
Well, you look at the table, and we're up there. but it's been frustrating. It's kind of like this so far. This season's kind of like had two sides to it. You've had the Premier League side to it, which has been painful to watch and a little bit ugly at times. And
Yeah,
then you've had the refreshing, cup games and Europa games where we've seen some of the young guns get blooded, and we've seen, people like Martinelli coming in like a breath of fresh air with some lovely goals. So it's been for me, it's been two sort of like two halves.
I think Stan, for me, it's all about bravery and Unai Emery being brave this season. He's got quite a few young players that he could integrate into the team, especially in the Premier League, and make the team better. But as we know, as Arsene Wenger used to say, you put young players in, you're risking losing some points throughout the season. So where do you see the balance there? Has he struck a balance, or is he still a little bit too negative for you?
For Emery's approach is timid. A lot of the times in some of the games, especially I look at the Liverpool game, for example, I look at the lineup he puts out and it looks a little bit timid. And I've been frustrated, but a lot of the tools haven't been at his disposal. Tierney's now coming back into the team, who we've got big hopes for. We all know that Hector Bellerin on the right side makes that side a lot better. We've got people like Callum Chambers, who is shining. Holding, we've got big hopes for, is now back and fit. So we all know that we've got sort of like problems going on the defensive side of our game. And I think this week is going to really tell us a lot about Unai Emery and how timid or how brave he can be. Because we've got a league game now coming up tomorrow. And then midweek, we've got the Europa game. And I'm going to be very interested to see where Rob Holding fits into his plans. Is he going to make a brave choice and drop someone like Socrates, who I think is ready to be taken out of the firing line for a while, and put someone like Rob Holding in next to, say, David Luiz, or even go even bolder than that and put Callum Chambers in next to Rob Holding, because I can't see how you can drop Callum Chambers at the moment, because he's done everything that he's been asked to do, even when he's been playing out of position on the left. Or is he going to save that for the Europa game? So I think this week, once we get to see his lineups, we're going to know a lot more about how brave or how timid the manager really is.
Yeah, and I totally agree with everything you're saying, Stan. And moving forward, we're going to see maybe a third of the first team coming back into the team, like Tierney, Bellerin, Holding, and Lacazette. So there you have probably four first-choice players. Even if he doesn't like Callum Chambers and sees him as maybe a backup to Bellerin long term, I have that fear. I actually rate Callum Chambers quite highly, but I have that fear that Unai Emery does not rate him as highly. But four players into the first team should see us surge in the next 8 to 10 games.
Well, I look at it like this. Once he has all of those players back, and obviously they need to get a few games under their belt, but you've got to be looking at, say, December, January, when all of those players, if they don't have any sort of relapses, will be up and firing. And at that point, I'm going to be, a lot of people have been asking me, where are you in Emery stand? Are you in or are you out? And I say I'm kind of like 50-50. I've not been happy with some of the performances, but I don't want to make a knee-jerk reaction and say he's got to go, because I don't want to see us go down that Man United road of constantly shifting managers over the next few years. Whoever comes in after Wenger, for me, has to be the person. And that's why I really want it to work for Emery. I want to have a little bit of continuity. So when we get to like December or January, I think that I'll probably be in a better position then to say, I don't think it's going to work out for this manager, and we might want to start thinking about moving him on and looking at a replacement. Or no, once those players have come in, the style of play, we're winning games, but not only are we winning games, it's the manner of how we're winning the games. If I see an improvement there, then maybe he gets a stay of execution. So for me, the jury is still out on Emery, but I'm still backing him.
Yeah, Stan, so much depends on these three players coming into the back four.
And
I really think that,
and also whether Nicolas Pepe can come good as well. I think there's a
yeah.
that's a big that could be a really big plus for us as the season moves on.
And a really big key to that, Stan, is our goal difference. I see us scoring as many goals as we're conceding, and that's never been. We've always scored a few more goals than we've conceded, but now we're almost conceding as many as we're scoring.
Yeah, and I know that we've got a lot of, I know a lot of people have been upset with our defence, and there have been a lot of defensive areas. But I do think that a lot of those problems and a lot of those defensive errors come because there's not been a proper screen in front of them. And if you're in an Arsenal defence, you're constantly seeing attackers running towards you, and you've got people like Socrates, who's not the fastest, and people as well like Xhaka, who drops back into the defence a little bit. They turn and they pull these players down because they haven't been screened in the midfield. So again, for me, it's over the next few weeks. I mean, is Xhaka coming out of the team for his paternity leave? Is that happening?
No, well, I'm originally from Ireland. I've been watching the Swiss. Ireland actually played the Swiss last week, and he was in that team. He played.
Because I think that we were talking just a few moments ago about, is the manager, is he brave in his selections, or is he timid? The Xhaka situation certainly needs addressing, and I was hoping that that the maternity leave thing would force the issue. That if he's out of the team for a month, taking care of his new arrival, that he'd have to maybe put someone like Torreira in that position. We kill two birds with one stone then.
Yeah.
We see whether Torreira is the man to be our holding defensive midfielder, because he would obviously get a run of games, hopefully, in that role. And then we can say, yeah, okay. And maybe it would force the manager's hand to think again. But if Xhaka's not going to go out of the team, then we all know that he's going to continue to pick him in that role. And I think as long as that keeps on happening, when attackers come running towards Xhaka, he's got a turning circle of the Titanic, and attackers, they don't go past Xhaka with skill moves. They just run past him, and his only option is he turns so slow, he grabs hold of him and pulls him to the ground.
Personally, Stan, I feel that Torreira needs to sit beside Xhaka to babysit him, to cover up and mop up his mistakes. Because, like you said, he doesn't turn very well, and he always seems to pick up a yellow card every game.
And he keeps playing Torreira almost like a 10 at times.
Yeah, which I understand that's to break up play high up the field, but I think Torreira is more effective in front of the back four, breaking the play up there and moving things forward. So, Stan, you're going to see how things go till December, January. Would you be in favor of, because I would not be in favor of changing a coach until the summertime. Would you be in favor of maybe changing things until, like, we're looking at a cutoff point of maybe if you're 6 to 8 points out of top 4, then things are pretty bad, right?
Yeah, I mean, it all depends for me on the manner of, if we're losing a lot of games, for me, it's the manner. If it comes to January, Christmas time, and we're sort of like a little bit out of the top 4, then obviously then that decision that Emery has to go should be made at the end of the season. There's no point in disrupting it there and then. The other option would be is if it's a case where, let's say we're getting smashed by lesser teams and having some really embarrassing performances. It looks like players have down tools. If it's that kind of a scenario, then I would all be for hooking Emery then, and then perhaps putting Freddie in as a caretaker manager to the end of the season, not doing an Ollie and giving him the steering wheel straight off, put him in to the end of the season, and then at the end of the season, regroup and then have a look and who would be the next best option to come in as manager, whether it stays as Lundberg, because he's done a fantastic job, or there's other managers that are more suitable that are available. But I wouldn't be adverse to that if, we're getting sort of like, we're having our pants pulled down at places like Southampton.
Southampton last year.
Yeah.
I always think of that Southampton game as we lost 3-0, but we actually scored 2 goals in that game. But it was just a matter of that the feed was bad, you know. I actually heard somewhere, Stan, that Freddie Lundberg is quite ambitious. So I was thinking about this the other day. Do you think he may have maybe forced the board into bringing him into the first team setup because he is ambitious?
I don't know.
Do you think he forced their hand a little bit?
I think it was more of a case that when Wenger left, I think it was they kept Bold around for a little while to help ease in Emery. But I think maybe their long-term thinking was a fresh start should be a fresh start. So why would you want to keep, have Wenger's shadow in there and keep Bold around for that long? And he was fairly successful, when he worked a little bit further down in the club, at younger levels. And I think it was just, and obviously having a lot of these young guns that are so promising. And it seems to me that the board definitely forced Emery's hand on that. I think that they took his safety blanket away in people like Iwobi and Mkhitaryan, which then forced Emery to start using people like Saka.
The younger players.
And I think that wasn't an Emery decision. I think that was, Don Rao's and Vinay's decision.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, and obviously by doing that, having Freddie move up with them would be a good thing to do.
Do you think the fans have patience for those younger players, especially in the wide positions, and even Pepe, who's come along, and he's going to take a number of games to hopefully hit the ground running. Well, not hit the ground running, but take a few games to get used to his surroundings again.
Well, social media tells me that a high majority of Arsenal fans have no patience at all.
We all wanted to see the young players. Now they're in the wide positions. They're going to struggle a little bit here and there. And,
I'm so glad that we don't have any Arsenal players playing for England at the moment, and I'm really glad that some of our young up and comers aren't being selected for the the senior England squad, because it's the last thing that they need at the moment. Because if they, what Arsenal the fans are like, you put a foot wrong, you have a bad game, and then he's not who we thought he was. Oh, maybe he's not ready. He should be going out on loan, and maybe we should be buying someone. So, I like the way that they've been eased into the team, and they're taking their chances as well. That's the good thing. They are taking their chances. So, long may it continue.
I often think, Stan, we suffer a little bit because we did have that invincible team. They were all fantastic players in their own right, and to compare this present Liverpool team with that invincible team, I think is not realistic. But because of that comparison, we now snigger and like our football is not good enough because it's not to the level of the Invincibles in that season.
I've always
high expectations Arsenal fans have. Combine that with social media, it's a poisonous combination.
But I mean, you look at it this way. I mean, you support a football team that goes through a season unbeaten, in the manner that we did it, and the style that we did it. And if you even look at the season before the Invincible season, I think it was only 1 or 2 games that we lost. I can't remember. It might have just been 1.
Yeah.
So if you look at the way that we were playing football, and I don't care who you are. I don't care whether you support Blackburn, Ipswich, Doncaster. If your football team is playing like that, and then you go and win the Golden Premier League trophy,
yeah,
you've got high expectations moving forward. And we just seem to we never seem to build on the platform that we created ourselves. We wrote ourselves into the history books and then kind of just slipped away. The team broke up. We never kind of, Alex Ferguson always used to say, you've always got to keep adding 1, 2 or 3 more players when you win the league, just to freshen up. We didn't do that. We sold our best assets. And I can understand Arsenal fans being pissed off about it because I'm pissed off about it, and
Yeah,
it baffles me to this day. How did we not continue to build an empire out of that?
because of the stadium move and trying to refinance, pay for the payments. So we sold off players to Manchester City at the time. That's
I
why.
know. Selling our assets off to people like Manchester United was just criminal.
Mm-hmm.
At least sell them abroad. If you've got to do it, make them go far away. Don't let them come back and haunt you week in, week out.
Let's get to the Cronky question with you. My personal belief is that Stan is a non-entity. Okay, he is an entity. He's going to be a caretaker of the club forever and ever, it seems. But his eye is on the LA Rams. I have a lot more faith in Josh myself, and I do believe that come January we will reinforce again. Where do you stand on the whole be excited Josh Kroenke thing?
When Ivan Gazidis was still around in that kind of a setup, I wasn't excited at all. I didn't really know much about the Kroenkes and who they were, and then I discovered about their huge holdings in all of these things that they own in the United States and everything. But I never understand a lot of Arsenal fans who say that we never get any money and that the Kroenkes don't put any money in. We've never really gone without. We don't go around with the begging bowl. We've spent a lot of money over the last few seasons. Mesut Ozil was a record signing at 42 million.
Mm-hmm.
Lacazette, we smashed that with Lacazette. We smashed that again with Aubameyang. We then smashed it again with Nicolas Pepe. We do spend money. There is an argument to say that we've spent some of that money poorly. You look at the 70 million that we spent on Xhaka and Mustafi combined. I think that was around 70 million.
Yeah,
that's poor investment. But your question, where do I stand with them? I don't care if Stan Kroenke doesn't go to every game. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. I don't go to every game. I live in Vancouver. Josh. I want to see Josh. Josh looks like he's got a bit of vigor about him. He looks like he wants to learn about it. He wants to be involved. And for me, I always felt in the summer when they came out with the the We Care, Do You campaign, which I signed that petition. But I would say that a couple of weeks later, I kicked myself and I wish that I hadn't signed it, because I felt that had come out. If they had just waited a little bit, I thought what we'd done in the summer was good. I thought that the communication from the club to us of what they were trying to do and how they feel was good. And I kind of felt a little bit sorry for Josh Kroenke when he'd done his interview, because to me it would have been a little bit like, you ungrateful bastards, if you just waited, if you just waited and let us in, and if we got to the end of the window and we've done nothing, great, that's the time to kick off, because things can happen right up until the last day. And
yeah. And they did. It went right to the last day. We got Tierney and our great stopgap in but I don't think we've ever invested too heavily in defenders. That's something I hope we will do in January.
Yeah.
Listen, I have no problem with the We Care Do You campaign. I think it was something all of Arsenal fans were worried about over this summer. Would we invest? And it happened. We got investment. Hopefully it continues. In January. Time will tell. A lot of things are going to start happening now for Unai Emery in particular. Like we already touched on, we've got players coming back. Would you like to see Lacazette probably come off of the bench tomorrow?
Yeah, as long as he's fit enough. As long as he's fit enough, I think we've got enough to have him coming off the bench. No need to start him.
I think we've seen with Liverpool, if you miss one of those forward players, you're going to struggle a little bit, and that's what happened to them today with no Mo Salah.
Well, if you look at our opponent, they've not really had much of a season so far. They're a team that's just come up. I don't know much about their lineup, to be honest with you. They've what? They got 9 points. They're 15th in the table. They've only had 2 wins. One was away at Everton, and one was at home to Crystal Palace. But they did have a good draw against Chelsea.
Yeah.
And they've only scored 7 goals. So you'd like to think that on paper we should be able to get a result against them. But this is Arsenal that we're talking about. And
Yeah.
depending, and until we see who that starting lineup is going to be, I think, if you ask me now what I think the result's going to be, I couldn't answer that until I see the starting lineup. When I see the starting lineup, I'll be able to give you a better answer.
Well, I'm actually thinking we will win 2-1, Stan. I've heard other people that will get a draw 1-1. Let's go through the team. What team would you put out first of all, and then secondly, what team do you think Unai Emery will pick?
The team that I would like to go with would be Leno at the back, obviously. On the right, Hector Bellerin. On the left, Tierney. And in the middle, I would like to try, especially against a team like Sheffield United, who we say we should be able to get a result. That would be a game that I would like to try. Callum Chambers and Rob Holding, because if I got it right, if you're going to bring Rob Holding into that defence, he usually plays on the left of the two, and that's where David Luiz plays. He plays on the left of the two. So I don't see him dropping David Luiz for Holding. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd like him to go bold and take out both Socrates, and Luiz, and put in those two. And then I would like to see in front of them, I would like to see perhaps Guendouzi and Torreira. And ahead of them, I would like to see Dani Ceballos. With on the right-hand side, Nicolas Pepe. On the left-hand side, perhaps Xhaka. How many is that? I'm trying to count my formation there.
You got one more.
And then up front, Aubameyang.
Aubameyang. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, with hopefully Lacazette on the bench.
Well, I'll give you
Martinelli on the bench as well.
Martinelli on the bench. I'll give you my team, what I would pick, and then we'll go into what we think Mr. Unai Emery's going to do. So, of course, I would start with Bernd Leno. He's done nothing wrong until he gets injured or whatnot. Emi Martinez is a good backup, but Bernd Leno. I'm kind of going to mirror what you want to do. I want to see that central defensive partnership of Holding and Chambers, flanked by Bellerin and Tierney. And in midfield, I would play Torreira in front of the back four, alongside Guendouzi. But instead of your Ceballos, I would play Willock there. I'm just a little bit worried that Ceballos has gone off the boil a little bit and hasn't helped us a whole lot. On the left side, I would go with Martinelli over Saka, Pepe on the right. He scored a goal in the international break for the Ivory Coast, and so we're hoping that's going to kickstart things for Pepe. And then, of course, Aubameyang up front.
Was that the goal he combined with Wilfried Zaha?
Just say that again.
The Pepe goal, was that a goal? I thought I saw a clip of it where he combined with a pass from Zaha. I
think so. I think it was.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
he scored on international duty, and hopefully it's going to help him. It's I know it takes a little time to adapt to new country as well. I've come over 15 or 16 years ago here, so there is an adaptation period to every. And we saw recently the Bergkamp and Wright interview, where Dennis Bergkamp said they were living out of a hotel for a little bit, So we got to persevere with Pepe. I think it'll come good in the end. And hopefully, Stan, we could get Lacazette coming off of the bench as well.
So my question is, would you have Mesut Ozil anywhere in the squad?
No. I would. He doesn't go further in North London. You know that, right? No. Mesut Ozil for me has been a non-entity away from home in particular for probably 2.5 years. He's not been consistent enough for me. He plays well. He has the odd good game at home. I've never seen him take control of a game away from home.
So what do you make I mean, he's been a big story all week, you know,
Yeah.
with the interview that he done, which I think was on The Athletic, with Ornstein. And then also there was the press conference with Unai Emery the following day, where he was also kind of slightly backpedaling a little bit and bigging up Ozil. What have you made of all of that? What's your thoughts?
That basically Ozil is going to stay at Arsenal till the end of his contract. And would you not? I mean, we goofed really badly with Gazidis and Wenger when we offered them that big contract, and we're sort of why would he be motivated to move now? He seems to enjoy London, and I think we're stuck with him now for the majority of his contract. Maybe in January, does he come down to 1 year left then in January?
I'm not sure exactly. I mean, what is it? He's with us until 2021, right?
2021. So in January, he could be getting close to 18 months out. Maybe things will start happening, but I highly doubt it at this point. I think we're stuck with a mercurial player on it, sitting on our bench, or maybe not even making the first team.
I mean, he's been popping up on my timeline all week, right? And in all the time that I've supported Arsenal, which has been about 43 years now, I've never known a player with this kind of an enigma behind him, and to be such a Marmite player, you know.
Yeah.
And before I sort of like go into a little bit of some of what I'm talking about, I've got a couple of things that I've seen this week. I will preface it with, I remember when we signed Mesut Ozil, and you know, I was as pleased and excited as anybody.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it came right out of the blue. It was, I think, right towards the end of the window. I don't remember seeing, you know, any links that we were linked with him, and it came right out of the blue. Was it 40 to 42 million? And he came with that big reputation. There was all of the stats that he was one of the best assists, you know, consistently throughout Europe.
Yeah.
And also remember as well, I also found it interesting that when he came to Arsenal, a lot of the Real Madrid players were very vocal in their displeasure that Madrid had let him go.
Yes.
I seem to remember Cristiano Ronaldo was quite vocal about it and singing his praises.
Yep.
Either they really loved him, or they were just trolling us because they wanted to see the back of him. If so, that's a hell of a troll. That's like the king of all trolls. But
6 years ago.
Sorry?
And 6 years ago.
And if you look at Mesut Ozil, when you look at Mesut Ozil, there's so many facets to this guy. There are so many sides to the Mesut Ozil debate. He was almost like a Rubik's cube. And when he came to the club, I thought, you know, what did he bring with him? Other than the talent that we all wanted to see, he brought a lot of supporters with him. If you go onto Twitter, I was looking at this the other day, and I was when I made this comparison, my mind boggled. Mesut Ozil has just over 25 followers, 25 million followers on Twitter. And if you look at Arsenal Football Club as an entity, as an organisation that's been going since, you know, the year dot, they've got 15 million Twitter followers.
Yeah. There's some Real Madrid in there.
You see how he overshadows. And if you make a comparison, if you look at Aubameyang, he has 1.2 million followers. So if you see this machine that's behind Mesut Ozil, it's huge. And I refer to them as the cult of Ozil, or his disciples, or as some people say, his fanboys. Because what I've found is that when you try to have a debate about Mesut Ozil, if you go on to social media and if you show any displeasure in what you're seeing for Mesut Ozil, the football player, on the football pitch, a high percentage of those 25 million people out there will come back at you very, very fiercely. very, very fiercely. And I've had a lot of them come back at me this week for me you know, talking about my displeasure with him as a footballer. And, you know, the first label that comes back is that I'm a hater. That's the first one. And, you know, that I don't respect the magic that he brings, and I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm a hater. And I was curious about, you know, when all of these followers came to Arsenal with Mesut Ozil, I sat down and I thought to myself, when he finally leaves our club, will they stay or will they go? And I'm on a Facebook group about Arsenal. So I done a poll. I asked a question. I asked, when Mesut Ozil finally leaves Arsenal Football Club, will you A, stay and continue to support Arsenal, or will you B, leave Arsenal and start supporting the football club that Mesut Ozil goes to? And I sat back and watched, and I couldn't believe that people were actually picking option B.
Wow.
That they will, and the best one was, I've got it written down here. One person actually put in the comments of the poll, I will not support any club in England when he leaves. And then I had other people putting in the comments, I'm too ashamed to answer the question on the poll, embarrassed emoji, because the penny finally dropped that they were more interested in Mesut Ozil, the player, than Arsenal, the entity, the football club. And that kind of, and there's a lot of people that came in the comments and they were just saying, what a stupid question. What kind of a question is this? And they were obviously, you know, part of the cult that were embarrassed and didn't want to put on the poll one way or the other. So that's how big it is with him, you know. And for me personally, you know, I want Mesut Ozil to leave Arsenal Football Club. For me, I think the fairy tale is over.
Yeah, the time is right.
Well, is that a lot of these people, these that are part of this cult, I can't wait for them to leave either. Let's look at the problems, right? That's the fan side of it. Yeah, the void on Twitter. That's what you get from his fanboys, right? But let's look at it logically now, right? Let's have a look at the stats. Let's look at, I need a sip of water, getting a dry mouth here.
Yeah.
Let's look at what he's actually brought to the club stat-wise. The 6 seasons that he's been there. His first season, 13-14, Mesut Ozil scored 5 goals and scored 10 assists. The next season, 14-15, he scored 4 goals. And let me just say, that first season is a good return for me. In your first season, 5 goals and 10 assists.
Right. Yeah.
That's not a bad return.
Yeah.
His next season, he took a dip, 14-15. He only scored 4 goals and only managed 6 assists. The next season, 15-16, he scored 6 goals, so 2 more than last season, and a whopping 19 assists. Not bad.
Yeah.
16-17, 8 goals, 10 assists. Not bad on the assist level. 17-18, he dropped 4 goals, 9 assists. And then last year, 5 goals and 2 assists. Now, what I see from that is that in the 6 years that he's been with us, he's only managed 3 occasions to get into double digits, and that was on the assists. He's never managed to get into double digits of goals ever. His highest is 8 in a season.
And
he's only managed double digits in assists 3 times. And I don't think that for someone that carries the reputation that he does in the game, I look at those stats, they're not bad, but they're not worldy stats for me. And those stats also show me as well that he's very inconsistent.
And people complain that he never had the players around him as well. He only had Giroud to work with, and that season he had a lot of assists. He could have had a lot more, that's what they say. But he has the players around them now, Stan.
But when you talk to his disciples and you mention these stats, they get quite ashamed about those stats, and rightly so. And what they will bring up is they will bring up the phrase, chance creation. That's how they dig him out of the hole. They start talking about chances created. I saw one put up a post in the week having the audacity to compare Mesut Ozil to Dennis Bergkamp. And their thread was something along the lines of, in such a period of time, Mesut Ozil has created more assists than Dennis Bergkamp. So sit down and shut up. And I thought to myself, they will never erect a statue outside of the Emirates of Mesut Ozil. It's just never going to happen.
No.
And the best game that I've seen Mesut Ozil play in an Arsenal shirt was against the mighty Ludogorets.
Yeah, where he lifted that ball. Yeah.
Also, as well, you can't compare it. Even if you compare the actual stats to Dennis Bergkamp brought a lot more to the team. His attitude, his commitment, his application in training. And these are all of the things now, which move on to the last section, is if you look at his problem, is Mesut Ozil has a lack of application. Yeah. His fellow German teammate, Per Mertesacker, came out quite recently and said that Mesut Ozil just doesn't try. You see articles as well from Raul Sinieri saying that, well, the reason that he's not being picked is because he's not training hard enough. And Unai Emery is saying that there are other players in the team that are more deserving. And for anyone out there that says that, well, training is just practice, doesn't understand how important training sessions are at this top level. This is where you lay the seeds. This is where you're integrating youngsters into the team. And those youngsters aren't just learning tactics, they're learning how to conduct themselves and to be part of Arsenal. And if you see someone like Mesut Ozil earning 350 grand a week, and he's not putting in the hard yards in training, that sets a precedent to those younger players. And those other players, those other senior players who are putting in the hard yards, they're not going to be too happy either. So training and, lack of application in training and just saying that training is just practice, for me, is a poor excuse, because you train hard to get into the team. That's how it's always worked in football. That's how it's always been. 3 strikes and you're out. We've seen Mesut Ozil, he's been taken out of the team now a couple of times by the manager, and he's been brought back into the teams. And every time he's been brought back into the team, I've never seen him grab the game by the scruff of the neck.
No.
I've never seen him do it.
No. And
there's no point in having him on the bench, because he's not the kind of player where if things are going bad and you're a goal down, that's the worst time to bring Ozil on. So why have him on the bench? If Ozil plays, then he has to start. And here's what I describe it as a Goldilocks player. The only way that you get a performance out of Mesut Ozil is if the porridge isn't too hot or if the porridge isn't too cold.
Yeah.
Because to get a good game out of Ozil, the porridge has to be just right. Everything just has to be perfect.
The best way to use Ozil.
And where we are at the moment, we can't afford to have a player like that in and around the team.
No. The best way to use Ozil off the bench is if we have a 3-0 lead and we're trying to hold on to the ball. And even then, it's a precarious situation. I always remember playing football, standing. If I saw a player wasn't performing or trying with the same effort that I had, it would show up in my attitude towards that player a little bit. I am sure it happens at these big clubs as well, where Ozil is not performing on the pitch. And Granit Xhaka, he is one of the best trainers at the club. So that points to what you're saying. That's why he's in the team, but he does have his own deficiencies in his game.
Yeah.
So Arsenal Vlogs is in, and here's his team for tomorrow. Leno, Chambers, Holding, Louise. So he's playing Chambers right back, Tierney left back, Xhaka, Torreira, Ceballos, Pepe, Aubameyang, and Saka. So that could be something like what Unai Emery might try, Stan.
Yeah, that does look like the kind of team that I would expect from Unai Emery.
Yeah, you got the principals in there, David Luiz and Granit Xhaka.
Although there is one person missing, and that's Guendouzi, because come rain or come shine,
Looks like
he
him.
does love a bit of Guendouzi, does our manager.
What do you think of Guendouzi, Stan?
Um, I
And
think for
take
someone,
his age into account, yeah.
yeah, I mean, for someone as young as he is, coming from a league that he's come from, I think he's fantastic. My only criticism is, and it's a fair criticism, that sometimes he has matches in halves. He'll have a fairly rubbish first half and a great second half, or vice versa. But that's going to be something that's going to improve as he gets older and has more game time. There are some times in the game though where things aren't going well for us, and he's having a little bit of a stinker, and then Emery will do something like he'll take off Danny Ceballos and not take off Guendouzi. Rather than take off the inexperienced kid, let him go onto the bench, let him sit down and watch the game for a little bit. Do you know what I mean? And bring on someone with a bit more experience. I think there are times when he can do things like that. And I think that what was the game where he had that? He went in for that really terrible foul, and the manager. There were times when the manager, you want to bring him off, not say anything. You bring him off, you seat him down, so then he sits there and he understands why he got taken off. But sometimes I feel that Emery gives him a bit of a free pass. So as he's learning the game, he's thinking, "Oh, I can get away with that. The manager's going to have my back." Sometimes you've got to you can discipline him without shouting at him. You can pull him off when he's having a stinker, pull him off when he goes in for a really bad challenge, and he'll sit there and then he will realise why he's been taken off the field.
Tomorrow, Sheffield United. Are we looking up the table, or are we looking over our shoulders, Stan? How should we address this? I mean,
well, if you look
best
at where
case
we are,
scenario.
the points are quite tight. We're like eight points off the top, 9 points off the bottom area. So we're kind of like in the middle. So every game really counts for us at the moment. And I think for where we are and how we've been playing, yeah, we're definitely looking over our shoulder for me.
Is the best case scenario for us second place, and the worst case scenario outside the top four?
But end of season?
Yeah.
Best case scenario for us, I think, could be third.
Okay. You don't think second place is on?
I'm not sure. You've got the two powerhouses of Liverpool and Man City, and I think if you look at the end of last season, there was a point last season where we were in third, and I felt with some of the fixtures that we had coming up that we could have staked a claim and held on to third, let alone getting fourth and a Champions League place. I thought that there was a good point where I thought third place was up for the taking. And then there was a bit of a collapse, wasn't there, at the end of the season? And I think that we've improved personnel-wise this season.
Yeah.
And, with Manchester United now having fallen away like they have, I think that there's a good opportunity for us to finish third, if not fourth.
Yeah, I was thinking today, Stan, that Manchester United have played us at home, played Liverpool at home now, and play Chelsea at home. So they've got to go to 3 away fixtures, as well as the precarious situation that they're in. But it looks like the club is standing behind Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. They're not going to sack him.
They said something quite recently. I think Edward came out and made a statement and said a few things. I think one of the things he took umbrage was about how a lot of the United supporters unhappy that they feel that there's somebody behind the scenes, i.e. Ed Woodward, who's making footballing decisions who shouldn't be. I think he was a bit pissed off about that, and he also said that that they're going to continue to stand behind Ollie. And for me, I think that's a good thing for us. I think the longer Ollie's there, the better it's going to be for Arsenal.
Looking at across the North London at Spurs, Pochettino's got to be under pressure.
Yeah, and a lot of people think, is Pochettino going to get fired? But I also think that he has the kind of personality that about him that he's the kind of guy that could also walk. He's not the sort of guy that will hang on at the edge of the cliff by his fingernails and wait for the Daniel Levy to come and stamp on his fingers. He's the sort of guy that if he thinks, I've gone as far as I can, I don't like the way things are going, that's come across like the sort of guy that will leave to pastures new. I mean, he left Southampton pretty quick, didn't he, to go there?
Yeah. Maybe to Spain. You think he's waiting for that Real Madrid job?
I don't know. I mean, do you think he could go even take over at United?
Yeah, I was thinking that would happen, Stan, but the recent comments from the Manchester United ownership is that they're going to stick with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer now. But I wonder how bad it's got to get for them before they press the button on him.
Do you think if Liverpool had probably pulled their pants down today and done them, say, like, 4-1 or something like that, I think even though they said that recently, I think there would be a lot of pressure, especially from the fan base, to get him out. So I was actually quite glad that Liverpool didn't actually spank them. I was hoping that it was going to be a draw.
Yeah,
I want Ollie to stay in there a little bit longer because I think the longer he's in there, the better it is for us.
Along with Pochettino, I totally agree with that. They can keep their jobs for a little bit longer, because we're looking at our main competition now is maybe Leicester City and Chelsea for that top four.
Yeah.
What do you think about those two clubs?
Leicester, I mean, I said this I think it was on the Sunny podcast that we were talking, and we were talking about Emery, and he's been there now a season and had a full pre-season and is 8 games in. But you look at Brendan Rodgers, and he's not been at Leicester,
half as long.
Exactly, and he seems to have bedded in, really quickly and easily. So if you want to make a comparison that way, I look at Leicester and I think, why couldn't have Emery have settled in a lot quicker than that? And I know a lot of people have a go at Brendan Rodgers, and he might have a bit of a David Brent-ish personality, but I think he's a good manager. I think he's a very good manager. And when we were looking for a replacement for Wenger, I would have given him a shot personally. I know he's not glamorous. I know he's not a glamorous Spanish or an Italian. But I do think that tactically he can
set up a team.
Get a team playing good football.
Yeah, I agree with you. He can set up a team. He could have possibly won the league, the Premier League with Liverpool. Went to Celtic and won everything up for grabs up there. No matter how you rate the Scottish League, you still have to go and do it. And now he's come to Leicester and he has them playing in a very, very good way. They're dangerous for top 4 for me. What do you think over at Stamford Bridge? What's going on over there? The honeymoon continues.
I was surprised that how it's going actually, because when we all heard that there was going to be a transfer ban at Chelsea, I'm sure many fans like myself, was rubbing their hands with glee, but he's got them playing, and Tammy, you've got to look at some of these youngsters like Tammy Abraham. They're taking their chances and they're paying the manager back.
Yeah.
But, how long can it continue? Are they going to run out of steam at some point? We'll have to see. I
think so. And very on Chelsea thing that they were forced into using the young players, but it seems to be paying dividends for them. I agree with you. I think that the love fest for Lampard is continuing, but they will hit some hard times coming soon, and we'll have to see what happens then. Tell me, Stan, a little bit something about your Arsenal life. How you come to support Arsenal? What year that was, and what enticed you to support Arsenal? Was it in your DNA?
Well, by right, I should be a Newcastle supporter because my father was a Newcastle supporter, and I had a great grandfather that played for Newcastle, and in actual fact, he still holds the record, my great grandfather, of being Newcastle's most decorated player post Second World War, because he was,
Wow.
FA Cups and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
this is like going back to like 1912, something like that, right?
Yeah.
So I was living in South London when I was a young kid, when I was about sort of 6, 7, 8 years old, and my mum and dad were divorced, and my dad would come and take me out for weekends. And the two nearest football grounds that I lived to was Millwall or Crystal Palace. And going back then, it was like the sort of coming up to the end of the 70s.
Well, Millwall was dangerous. Yeah.
No, your dad, you're not taking your kids out for football at Millwall. So the first game that he took me to was Crystal Palace Newcastle, and obviously he done that because he was trying to get me into the family team.
Yeah.
But I hated the first game. It was all standing. I couldn't see anything. I had all these fully grown men standing around me shouting, and I hated it. And I was a little bit of a mummy's boy as well. I'd been raised by my mum and a lot of girls on the family. I just wanted to get home and play with my action men and stuff. And he took me home, and then he said in front of my mum, did you have a good? My mum said, Dad, did you have a nice time? And I sort of looked up at my dad, and I just lied. I said, yeah, I had a great time. Yeah. And my dad turned around and said, well, good, because we're going to go back again next week. And I was like, oh, no. Anyway, the following week, it was Crystal Palace, and they were playing Arsenal. And I could see now, and I was taking a little bit more interest in the game. And where we were sat on the sideline, and there was this one guy, number 7, in a yellow shirt, with his socks rolled down his legs, running up and down, up and down, up and down. And that was Liam Brady.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching him for the whole game.
Chippy.
And I came away from that game, and I thought to myself, because I hadn't really pledged allegiance to a football club at that point, and I was hooked from that game onwards. I was like, this is the team for me. I'm an Arsenal supporter, and that's how my love affair started. So, I'm 50, I'm coming up to 51. So it's been about 43 years now for me.
Great. That's a great story. It reminded me a lot of Fever Pitch. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah, I read the book as well. The book was a lot better.
I was never one for reading books. I'll watch the movie. Finally, just to close out, Stan, what do you want to see tomorrow versus Sheffield United? Can Unai Emery help himself in his job security and get things? I think our season really starts tomorrow for me, because we're getting the players that we signed in the summer actually into the team.
Well, it's really going to hinge on the lineup, if he's going to be bold or timid. But one of the things that I would really like to see happen tomorrow, I would really like to see Nicholas. We've got someone invading.
There's the star of the show right there. That's the star of the show.
I'd really love to see Nicholas Pepe have a real stormer, get a couple of goals and an assist. I'd really.
Yeah.
I've not seen.
We're all waiting for that.
I've not seen Arsenal rip a team apart yet in the league. I'd like us to have a 3-4 goaler, where we really, give the players some confidence. And in that game, we see Nicholas Pepe, we see his worth. A couple of goals and an assist would be great. And the confidence that would obviously give him. That's what I'd like to see tomorrow.
Yeah. We're all waiting for that. I know it will happen. We just don't know when. I want to see Unai Emery get a little bit more. I think he's been a bit cautious, Stan, because he hasn't had those players, especially the right back and left back, to secure things at the back for us. So I think he's been cautious. I do think these fullbacks will be elite fullbacks for us, especially Tierney. Very excited to see him. And in some weird way, they're going to help our midfield as well. I believe that as we become more secure at the back, our midfield will become better, even if it's Xhaka in there or not. And I do believe that we're going to start scoring goals. A lot of people are giving Emery these 8 to 10 games, so it's going to be very important. Yeah. Really quickly, with these 8 games, we all know what they are, Stan. Let me do my math. 8 times 3. What is that again?
Or 3-8.
24 or 3 times 8, 24. What kind of target are you looking for? I'm looking for around 20 points myself.
That would be nice. Yeah, I'd be
Leicester,
happy with something like that.
Leicester away is the really, really tough one in that group of 8 games. Everything else is manageable.
I mean, between now and next Sunday, that's like 3 games, isn't it? We play Monday, Thursday, and then Sunday again.
Yeah.
And that's, I quite like it when the games are thick and fast because it gives players a chance to get back into some kind of a rhythm. And I think that this time next week, when those three games are in the bag, I think that we're really going to have a real good idea of what this team is going to be about moving forward, because those players are back now. We all know who we want to see back in the lineup, and this time next week, we will know if where Emery is what his thoughts are, what lineup he's going to have going forward. There's going to be a lot of answers this week, I think.
Stan, one last question. What's the name of the cat?
Tamina.
Tamina.
Tamina. Do you know where I got that name from?
Where?
Tamina is a female WWE wrestler.
Okay. A current one or a retired one?
No, she's current. She's current. And I just thought, you know what? That's a good name for a cat. And we got a cat. And I thought, I'm going to call her Tamina.
One last, I'm going to give some love to the comments in the section before we sign off. And Stan, I'd love to have you on another time. Thanks for coming on today.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been a pleasure, by the way.
Thanks, Stan. So I want to thank Noe and, Alex from Arsenal, Cannon Fodder TV, and Yalsi for coming on. Yalsi, also London Old School, thanks for coming on. The thing with Emery, he hasn't shown a preferred style of play or identity. I know he needs time. Pep and Klopp did, but you could see their style of play. So Stanley Yalsi's saying that Pep and Klopp had a defined style of play. Have we seen it yet from Emery? I don't like this chameleon thing that he comes up with.
The only thing that seems quite regular from Arsenal is that he likes the ball to move up the wings, it seems.
Yes.
He likes to move the ball up the wings rather than through the middle. That seems to be the only constant that I see in these games.
And we had last season Kolasinac doing that. I think we've got a very, very good upgrade in yeah, the Kolasinac pullback. I think Bellerin's very good at the pullback. We're going to have some different things on the flanks. Bellerin from the right side with a pullback, but Tierney likes to put a cross in there.
Yeah, very impressed with what I've seen from Tierney. Very impressed. He looks, for me, that we've actually got a fullback who looks good going both ways.
Yeah. I think we have a left back that we can keep in the team for many, many years. And hopefully in January we see some activity. Stan, one last question. Saliba, he's doing some good things with Saint Etienne.
I have to be honest with you. I've not been following him. I know nothing about him until we got linked with him. I really don't know anything about him, but obviously I really hope he has a good season in France. And I'm glad in a way that he didn't come to us straight away. It's a little bit like having him on loan. Let him get that season under his belt. But I really do hope that in January, I really hope that these rumours about Upamecano from RB are true. He's one player that I do know a little bit about before we were linked with him, or a player that I rated. And I would love to see us get him and for him to come into that back line.
Yeah, I wanted to watch a little bit of RB Leipzig yesterday, but I was watching that Spurs game while I laid out with my back on the ground, if you can imagine that.
I've heard apparently that they're trying to get him to sign a new contract that he doesn't want to sign because they want to increase the buyout clause.
Wow. Yeah.
But another thing as well that I saw last week, I don't know if you saw it. Did you see a story that was going around saying that in the summer, apparently we were talking to FC Zenit about selling them Lacazette.
Yeah.
And apparently Lacazette has a release clause of 61 million euros.
Yeah.
And I saw it in one place, and I done some cross referencing, and I saw the story in a few places. What do you make of that, if true?
Uh, if true, I don't think the player would really want to go to Zenit over London. I think he's very happy there, and he's one of our talismans. So, and one of the captains, if you like the five captains.
Do you know if it's a case of Zenit made a bid for him, or they started the interest, or were we kind of like, showing Lacazette to them?
Yeah, I don't think Lacazette's 26, 27. If anything, we're looking to move Aubameyang in the next year or two
You
because
think
of his age,
so? Yeah.
just because of his age, you know. But we'll see what happens. Aubameyang is scoring goals for us. Where would we be without his goals right now, Stan?
I think he's probably, it's for a period of time he was keeping Unai Emery in a job as well.
Yeah, yeah. And if you think fans have turned on Unai Emery, without Aubameyang's goals, it would be a hell of a lot worse. So,
For sure.
hey, this is the time in the season we can power forward. We got some games. We got to pick up a lot of points and hold on to those two powerhouses at the front there. We've seen Liverpool's not infallible.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think they'll win the league? I think they will win the league.
I think if they're going to do it, it's got to be now, hasn't it?
Oh yeah,
It's
they
got to be
won't have
now.
a better chance. They won't have a better chance. Stan, thanks for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. 3 points tomorrow will be invaluable.
Just a quick plug before I go
Absolutely.
to everybody out there. I do Gooners in Vancouver reaction videos post match, and you can find those over on Sunny TV Unfilters YouTube channel. So if you want to look at our post match reactions after every game, they go up about a day or so after the match. And, we want to hear what you've got to say. So please go down into the comments, whether you agree with what we're saying or whether you disagree with what you're saying, come and have your say. And also, Ray, I just want to say thank you very much for inviting me on this afternoon. I enjoyed chatting things Arsenal with you.
Listen, Stan, we'll have you on again. Now that you're stateside with me, you might do some more in the evening. We'll talk about that. I will definitely leave the link down there to your latest video about the Bournemouth game. I actually watched that one. I enjoyed it myself. So I'll leave the plug there. People, go check out that YouTube link I'm going to leave down there after this video gets uploaded. This has been a pre-game episode for Sheffield United. It's going to be tough tomorrow, but hopefully we get 3 points. And I want to thank very much Stan the Man for coming on with me today. Thank you. I want to thank everybody that came into the comments: London Old School, Cannon Fodder TV, Yaltzi, Noe, Luca from Arsenal Vlogs. Thanks, Stan. We're out of here. I do appreciate it. We'll have you on another time as well. Love talking to you.
Up the Gunners.
Up the Gunners. Come on tomorrow. Let's get that 3 points.